Hi all! Everything in my video is pulled from the public domain, and I am using them under the Fair Use, Fair Dealings guidelines. Everything I say is my own opinion. You should look into this information for yourselves, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Good morning, everybody. Okay, this video is focusing on several royals and the things that they did, but it's also going to focus on Poppy Day, the changes being made to it, things that are going on, and we're also going to be talking about Mariah Carey, who has clapped back on the label diva. I think she threw a little shade at Meghan Markle. Unbelievable. So just watch this, okay? Let's just jump in and go. To start with, we're going back to Brainwave. I told you yesterday that Sophie went as their patron, and she went to celebrate with them their 40th anniversary. This is a place that helps autistic children and people with cerebral palsy, and she got to cut a cake. And anyway, Brainwave put up their own photos, which I think was very nice. All right, moving on. All right, the next day, Sophie went to Charis Refugees. And apparently what this place does is help bring refugees in, get them settled, get them a place to live, that kind of thing. And I think that was very nice of her to go. Next up, the New Victoria Theatre welcomed its patron, Prince Edward, the Earl of Wessex, who visited the company on the eve of the opening night of the Nutcracker, which starts from Thursday the 10th through Saturday the 12th. I love that play myself. I love that ballet. Good for him. Good for them. Now, the next day, Edward went and opened a Gwent Police's new headquarters, and he met with a group called Heddlebach, which is the area's mini police force made up of young volunteers that are out looking around and looking out for their community. Love it. And the night before that, at the Royal Academy of Engineering, the Princess Royal presented Prince Philip Medal to Dr. Asad Madni. The medal obviously was named for her father, who served as their senior fellow, and the prize is their most prestigious individual award. Congratulations. Next up, the king started welcoming people to Buckingham Palace. He started off with the president of Nigeria. Looks like they were sharing a joke, sharing a little chuckle. Nothing wrong with that. I love that guy's hat, though. I really do. All right. Then the king greeted Abdullah II of Jordan during an audience at Buckingham Palace. And apparently this was their first meeting since the state funeral of the Queen. All right. Now, after that visit, the king had an audience with Bader Mohammed Al-Awadi, I hope I'm saying that correctly, who is ambassador for Kuwait, and Uganda's ambassador to the United Kingdom, Nimisha Mandani. I hope I, again, said that correctly. All right, we're going to touch on this again. Do you guys remember I told you that Virginia Giuffre, or they're calling her Virginia Roberts now, remember when she accused not only Andrew, but Alan Dershowitz of that she was forced to have sex with him? And he fought back. And he countersued her for defamation. And so now she's dropped her case, saying that she may have made a mistake. Well, now they're saying that all of her allegations should be questioned. And they're saying that Prince Andrew was a fool for settling that lawsuit especially now that she's admitted a mistake. I always thought it was a mistake for him to settle, especially since she could not come up with that picture, the negative of the photo. He's always said that it wasn't true, but I think he was asked to settle the case by his mother because the case was overshadowing the Platinum Jubilee. But yeah, I agree, it was a mistake. Moving on, remember this guy from yesterday that I said needed a haircut, a shave, and to see a dentist and do something with himself? Well, some information's come out about him. Come to find out, he is a tree-hugging ex-Green candidate. Yes, that's him hugging on a tree. Well, some other information has come out since the incident where he threw the eggs. Well, come to find out, he's a student, number one. He says that the people in the crowd who attacked him were fascists and they ripped out his hair. And he says, and now I've been sent death threats, but it's not my first rodeo. Yeah, you could have fooled me. They're saying he's not allowed to carry eggs in public now. Well, I think that's a given. All right, moving on. All right, moving on. Queen Consort Camilla went to Westminster Abbey ahead of, Remembrance Weekend, and here's some snippets of her arriving. The ceremony started and she was handed her own, cross to put down. And what they noticed is that this one had her new royal cipher stamped on the top of it. And I think it looked very nice. And then there's one for Charles, and there's what the whole thing looks like. And then she stood up and they did this ceremony. Here's a little snippet for you. Watch this. When that was all over, Camilla went down through the crowds. There were multiple veterans in uniform standing around waiting to greet her. I think she's doing a great job so far. Anyway, there were some other veterans in the wheelchairs also to meet her. There was a service dog. We know how she feels about the animals that were also there to greet her. Very nice, very poignant service, I thought. Now, you guys should know that this tradition, in case you didn't know it, started in 1928 with just 2 crosses, and now there's over 70,000 of them. Now, according to the post put up by Westminster Abbey, the Field of Remembrance is officially open. So you can go, and if you're in the service or you know somebody that was in the service, and it's there to remember lost ones from the armed services. You can write your own personal messages on them. And this year, the field is open from November 10th through the 20th of November. Queen Consort Camilla took a moment to look at a very special plot that was put in remembrance of Her Majesty the Queen. Here's a little snippet for you. Well done, Camilla. Well, as you can see, there's a list of things that they're doing. So on the 10th, which was today, Camilla was attending the service. On Saturday, the 12th, members of the royal family will attend the annual British Legion Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall. So that's going to be Charles and Camilla, the Prince and Princess of Wales, the Earl and Countess of Wessex, Princess Royal and her husband, of course, the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester, and the Duke of Kent and Princess Alexandra. On Sunday, the 13th of November, King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla and other members of the royal family will attend the Remembrance Day service at the cenotaph. The king is going to, now he's making some changes. So the king is going to lay a new wreath, the design of which pays tribute to the wreath of His Majesty's grandfather, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth II. The poppies are mounted in an arrangement of black leaves, as is tradition for the sovereign. Now, I have to throw this out there. Neil Sean reported, if you can believe this, that Prince Harry, believing that now that there's a new regime in place, he would be able to come back and do things, has requested of King Charles that he be allowed to come back and participate in all of this stuff going on at the cenotaph. Apparently, he honestly did not believe the Queen was going to strip him of his military titles, even though she told him that that was what was going to happen. I guess he figured he could sweet talk her out of it. Didn't happen. Everything was stripped. So now that she's gone and Charles is there, he thought, I'll just ask Dad. Well, guess what Dad said? Dad said no. And William also said he's not a working royal. So no, he's not being allowed to come back. And with that, you have to wonder what stunt he's going to pull. Maybe he'll go back to the, American cemetery with a fashion photographer and trample all over their graves like he did last time. Okay, moving on. I just had to put this up. This blind item came up saying, if you had to be forced to have dinner with either Harry or Meghan, who would you choose? I would choose Harry. And all during dinner, I'd be slapping him around and telling him what an idiot he is and trying to shake some sense into him. Like, seriously. But obviously, that ain't it. Oof. Okay, moving on. I had to post this from Tara 987 on Twitter. She has a very interesting point that was made by Sumi, and it's an interesting theory. And the theory is that Charles will leave Harry and Meghan's children's titles until they're adults, because by then William may very well be king, and then those children are no longer the grandchildren of the monarch, and since they didn't have the titles at that point, they may not be entitled to them anymore. That's definitely an interesting theory. All right, moving on. All right, next up, I've told you guys about this blogger before, CJ Hawking. She really seems to have her finger on the pulse of what's going on. And she did this article called "The Sussex Shine Has Worn Off." And they're saying that it's really beginning to show, because what used to bring in lots of traffic is now just a tiny, non-existent blip. Meghan does not want to see that no one cares what her opinions are. And it shows by extension, how desperate she and Harry are for some recognition. Harry did want his privacy. To be fair, he did, but Meghan didn't. And she's always pushing to be snapped by the paps, and the same with him. And she's feeding on his phobia of the camera clicks. And she apparently, CJ Hawkins wrote, can Meghan not see that her husband is miserable? Yes, I think she can see that her husband is miserable. I think she just doesn't care. She can't locate Sussex on the map. She spent like 2 hours there on one visit. I mean, it's literally become a joke. Their business ventures are failing. Everything they touch, Spotify stock is plummeting. Netflix stock is plummeting. Everything they touch is just dying. I completely agree. Yes, their shine has worn off. You guys should follow her blogs. They're really amazing. All right, let's move on. All right, next up, I had to put this up. I pulled this off of Twitter. Meghan still has not sued Tom Bower or Valentine Lowe, as many lawsuits as they have filed against newspapers for any little thing that they took as a slight. The fact that they're not suing speaks volumes. But it's pretty obvious, and I've told you this before. She's using her podcast to play victim and to try to hit back again at the people who are making allegations against her. But what about the people that are appearing on her podcasts? Well, we remember that Mariah Carey was on her podcast. Remember, it was all about the diva word. And remember, Mariah told Meghan that she was a diva. And also remember, at the end of the podcast, Meghan did a 5 or 7 minute speech without Mariah around, where she talked about, she really didn't mean it badly. And she wanted to get her point across without being cut off. Well, I find this interesting. Gayle King, who's best friends with Oprah, who's been trying to help Meghan and get her up off the ground, interviewed Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey threw some shade. Listen to this.
The word diva has been used for you.
Yeah.
You don't even shy away from that.
I thought it just meant something fabulous. And now everybody wants to make it into something else.
Where do you come down on it?
I don't take that as a disrespectful term.
You heard it. So I'm going to guess that Mariah was not happy with the way that podcast went. People are trying to take it and turn it into something else. It's not disrespectful. That's right, Mariah, it's not. And I guess whatever you said got edited out. So she's going to put it out there now. Love it. You should know that Archetypes only has like 4.3 out of 10 stars. Once the novelty wore off, yeah. And her latest one, To Be or Not to Be, is number 52 on Spotify. And she's listed as 14 on the podcast chart. Sorry, guys, not even that's right. Yeah, Spotify is still trying to hyperinflate her numbers. The novelty's worn off. Her podcast is no good. It's just a victim fest. And in case you guys haven't noticed, every single guest has been a multi-millionaire. All right, I really want to know what you guys think about Harry wanting to return to the UK for Remembrance Day to participate. I want to know if you think Charles and William were correct to tell him no, because I think they were. Absolutely. I also want to know what you think about Mariah Carey throwing shade now and Gayle King being the one interviewing her. And of course, I want your comments about the rest of this stuff. So make them good, okay? Don't forget to leave those comments. Don't forget to double check the subscribe button. Make sure that you're still subscribed. If not, go ahead and hit that button, okay? Don't forget that in the description box, you'll find the links to my Twitter, my Getter, my Rumble, my email account so you can reach out to me. Don't forget about my Patreon. To those of you who have donated through my coffee fund and through the thanks button, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.